All right. Welcome to episode 15 of Untitled Common Sense. I'm your host, Derek. So, this is part two of my advice to young men. Just kind of expounding on some of the things that I think I would say to young men out there who are feeling left behind or not taken seriously or aimless, I guess is the word, or not sure who or what they should be. This being episode part two, I said I would talk about women because I think it's important to realize that for young men and even older men, women are probably one of the biggest factors of motivation, if not the biggest, that I've ever seen. As a older man who was a young man, I could tell you that I spent hours upon hours thinking about women in one capacity or another. And now, as I reflect back, being in my 40s, I can see how that type of mindset can lead young men to where they're at now. A lot of why young men are going back to ideals that put women below them or are, following the red pill is largely because of their interactions with women. They find that they don't measure up to women or they can't appeal to women or that, women don't want them. And all of this stems from just the lack of not feeling embraced by women. And for men, where women are seen as like the moment you hit puberty, it's like women become such a lion's share of everything you're about. I mean, men will achieve the greatest things in the world, not for anything else but to get women. So it shows you just how high women are in the focus of young men. But I think that's part of the problem. I think that's one of the bigger problems why young men feel the way they do now is because they've been told this narrative that you grow up, you get a woman, she's going to have your children, you're going to have a wife, blah, blah, blah. And the fantasy is that every man is going to be able to get a woman. And it'll just happen because it's biology, bro. It's just the way things are supposed to happen. As opposed to it being more that you grow up and you hope that you find somebody who vibes with you that you can, share your life with. But I think that narrative largely gets underscored. And I think the male community doesn't do a good job of really putting women insofar as what they represent to men in the proper context. So to start, what I said last episode about women was that you need to take them off the pedestal and just show them respect. And what I mean by that is that currently the way men are brought up to see women, they're like this trophy, like this overarching symbol that will denote your manhood. In a lot of ways, being a man is equated to how much of a man you can be to women. So that's where you get the narrative. That's where you get where guys got to constantly have girls and they got to get all the fine chicks. And if you got a fine chick, all your boys will be like, oh, dog, you're the shit. You're all that. And yes, it is nice to be in that, but it's empty. And again, it's empty in a way because underlying it all, it just shows a level of, it puts women in a place where they are more a tally system, a point system, rather than being people. And again, this current that we're seeing in today's society is this commodification of people. It's this devaluing of people, not being persons, but being things. And in much the same way, a lot of young men feel that they are being devalued and commodified, that they're only good for, making money, or they got to be 6 foot, like all these things that don't speak to who that person is, but rather just a list of superficial qualities. The male mindset towards women is that way. So when a man is not able to achieve or to get any women, he's like, well, I was sold a lie. I was told that I become a certain age and I do this and that, and I would have this, storybook marriage. But now these women don't want me and they don't like me. But little do they know, they don't like you for any number of reasons because they're people. In much the same way that guys don't like every woman, women don't like just all guys. And I think one of the things that guys need to realize is that our current mindset and the culture does not do us the service of being attractive to women. One of the things you do when you're a young man is you put your foot in your mouth and you're very uninformed. I wish we had more male role models to sit us down and tell us like you're going about this all wrong. But unfortunately, a lot of our older cats have the fucked up mindset or a more traditional mindset that just doesn't work in today's society. And so they also have their difficulties with women. That's why you see older dudes going with younger women because they can't deal with a woman who's their age, who is up to the bullshit that they spout. They just like, I'll get a younger woman. She won't know any better. She's easy to mold and manipulate. And you know, if people want to do that, Godspeed. I can't deal with a young chick. Like, they just do too much, and too much of it is just not what I'm about. But, you know, I'm not going to poo-poo that because there are people who that relationship works. I'm not one of them. But again, you see that even the elders are not the best to really guide young men about how they should feel about women. And so then you get these influencers who, again, as part of their whole shtick, you got to get millions of women, but you can't let a woman hold power over you, and you can't be a simp, and you can't, you know, act like a pussy, and you got to be traditionally strong man. And it just kind of sends men down. It just sends you the wrong way. And it gets you further from the goal than what you would if you would just be yourself. I mentioned in the last video that you should embrace who you are. And I fundamentally believe that. I think as far as I've been concerned, the more I have leaned into who I am as a person, the more successful I have been as a man. Nobody likes a man who's faking it. Men or women. Nobody likes it. It amazes me how Donald Trump has been able to get as far as he has when the reality of him versus the myth of him are incongruous and he lies about it. But he's probably the only example of a person I can say who like is fake in that way and successful. But most men, you can't be fake like that. And I think online media, what it does is it serves to really like obscure reality. So a lot of these people, you can't tell if they are about their shit or not because you only get these bite-sized clips that make them look their most glamorous. But in reality, if you would have seen them in real life, you'd be like, dude, you're kind of not that dude. Andrew Tate is one of them. Every time I listen to him talk, he's just loud and angry, and he always has to pontificate and explain why he's great. Number one rule for any man out there, if you have to explain to people why you're great, you're not great. It's the same logic that applies to if you have to explain a joke, it wasn't funny. Great people do not have to say they're great. Their greatness speaks for them. Michael Jordan doesn't have to go in front of anybody and say like, I was that dude. All you have to do is look at the shoes of everybody in attendance to, you know, a basketball game, and you know the man was great. Like, that's what greatness looks like. Same with like a Tiger Woods. If you know anything about golf, he doesn't have to come and say that he was great. His Masters championships speak for him. His body of work speaks for him. You know, any musician, your favorite musician, they don't have to say that they're great. They have a body of music that proves that. So what I'm saying is like, especially with these online personalities, a lot of it's just talk and just all this. And they tell you need to do this to get a woman. You need to do that. But like, they're selling you down a rabbit hole. They're trying to make you into them. And they're not even them. Okay? So, but the most important thing is that I think women need to be put, as far as in the mentality of men, in a much more down to earth box. I think it's too high. I think as a young man, you buy into so much. You got the Disney narratives. You got probably what your cousins are telling you, what your uncles. Even our society is like all the holidays, like Valentine's Day and stuff, are to show your affection to women. All our stories talk about how you have to impress the woman. And I think in today's society, we can't upkeep that. I'm actually happy that a lot of the Disney films, not the old fairy tale ones, but the new ones like Moana, Frozen to a less extent, but a lot of them kind of eschew away from that. Because I think these guys are killing themselves trying to be attractive to women, and they're going about it the wrong way because the women are not talking to them because they are off put by them. So they're not going to be able to give them the advice like you need. And then the advice that they tell them is running gobsmack counter to what these alpha bros are saying. And they're like, I got women and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they got women, but they got a type of woman that you most likely, if you're listening to their content, don't want. There'd be some fake woman who offers no pushback, who's submissive. And people think they want a submissive woman and stuff like that. But like when shit really hits the fan, you kind of want somebody who also can think on their feet and can get shit done. I don't know any human that likes a person that can't get shit done. There's some dudes who like submissive women, and those are dudes who just their way is the highway, and you can tell in their life they have very few people. Only the people who are sycophantic and kiss up to them are gonna agree with them. But most people are like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to push over. In much the same way women don't want to push over, I don't think men want to. And it's not fun. It's not fun. Part of the appeal with somebody is that pushback. You have to have a little tension in the relationship for it to be really good. That's been my experience. You get a woman that can challenge you, that's fun, because then you got to do better. And if you have to do better, you have to be engaged. And if you're engaged, then you're involved and you see how it goes, like you're invested. So, I think really, if you're a young man out there and you're struggling with women, cool. I say work on yourself. And this is what a lot of the red pill says, work on yourself. But they say work on yourself till you get to the point where then you can just buy women off with money and prestige and cars. And you got to do all that, you're not worth your salt. A man should not have to have all these physical things to attract a woman. Because what a real woman who's going to stand by you is not looking for all that. That'll be part of it. In much the same way that because of the society we live in, you do have to have a certain amount of actualization of physical commodities and things. But what she really wants is somebody emotionally that she can depend on, feel safe with, grow a family with, feel comfortable with. And listening to these red pills, you're not going to provide that. You're always going to be looking at her with suspicion. You're always going to be trying to dominate her. It's like you're always playing this like really shitty manipulative chess game, and it's just not fun. I would rather be sitting back enjoying my time with my woman than over here thinking about, I gotta get $1 million more, man, to make sure she ain't looking at some other dude, or I gotta make her jealous, or she's getting too old, and like just stupid stuff that just doesn't make sense. Is not really practical to most people. And I like I said, I contend most people probably don't want that. You see that you see these guys doing it because they're just successful in a way that you're not. But if you become successful in your own way, you'll realize that their way is not for you. So with women, put them in their proper place. Get to know women. Make friends with women. Talk with women. Stop acting like they're this alien race that you have no idea what's going on. A lot of our problems that we like as a society, for as much as people bitch and moan about not being together and not being included, we don't fucking talk to each other. We're rude to each other. We're cruel to each other. Yet we expect this magical one-sided reciprocity where people will love us, but we don't have to do anything to be loved. And I think that goes into what I'm saying about women is that first off, you got to take them off the pedestal and stop treating them like this holy grail. Once you do that, the whole dynamic and the whole sense of not having a girl deflates to normal properties. And you'd be like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend. All right, that's cool. I'm just going to go live my life, do my thing. If it happens, it happens. Too many people are worried about getting married. Even more people who are like even sick in the head are worried about kids and declining birth rate. Like, fuck all that. Just live your life. Do your things. Be the person you want to be. And I doubt who you want to be is a shitty person. I think if you just stay away from being a shitty person, lean into the things that work best for you, be a generally good person, try to expand your horizons, I think all that will come to you. But of course, as with anything, I believe stop being so thirsty for it. A lot of these guys are thirsty for something that they don't even know much about. You want a girlfriend, but you don't know how to upkeep what it takes to upkeep a girlfriend, to be with somebody. Like it's not just like, oh, it just happens she's with me. Like you got to remain interesting to that person. You got to remain like safe to that person, respectful. Like there's all these other intangibles, and listening to people who tell you that women are less than what they are is the surest way to make sure that you'll be alone for the rest of your life. And that's just fact. It's just fact. Ask your mothers, ask your grandmothers, ask your cousins, ask your sisters. They'll tell you. Even if they're younger and they might say, oh, they like a flashy guy, give it a couple years, they're like, nah, it was BS. Most people will tell you it's BS. It's just what it is. That's what I think. I think that's just common sense. But again, you can make the case that I have a different experience. Like I said, I did not grow up feeling lost in my manhood. So this is new to me that men are feeling that way, especially in today's age where it just seems like if you're a man, you kind of have a head start. So the fact that men are feeling like they're being attacked or not nurtured is news to me. But I think it's largely kind of a self-inflicted wound. At some point, you got to realize that what's been working for you is not working for you. And that's what I had to learn. You know, I was a young man who thought my shit didn't stink until I was told that it didn't, that it did. And I didn't like that shit. And I can say that the closest I've ever come to giving up has been over a girl. And I remember during that period, I was like, whoa. What really hit me was when one day I was at work and I was sitting at my desk and I was moping around and I wasn't happy. And it just hit me. And I was like, am I really predicating my happiness based off me having a woman? Because in my mind, I was like, I'm not worth it. She didn't like me. Then I got nothing to offer. Everything about me just sucks. What can I do? And just think about that. Me, a whole full person who's had an entire history before I met this girl, an entire history thought that because I didn't get this one particular girl, nothing about me was worth it. Nothing. And I think this is kind of how a lot of young men are feeling now that I'm thinking about it. But this happened to me a little bit later. I was in like my late 20s, but I still felt it. And when and believe me, I didn't come to this realization to maybe like a couple months after me and this girl had like stopped being together. It took me about a year or so where I was just really down about that. But I remember when I recognized that, wait a minute, I honestly am coming from the perspective that nothing in my life is worth it because of this woman. And when I thought that, that was my turning point. That's when I started getting better because I started thinking, wow, you have devalued yourself to such a degree that you think your only worth is predicated on having a woman. And just think about that. You're your own person. You have a whole body, you have a whole history, you have likes, dislikes, you have a whole trajectory that has nothing to do with anybody else. And yet, at this point in time, I felt that everything I'd done does not matter because I didn't have this one woman who I've only known probably combined total of like time I've known her, a year. That's crazy, right? I'm 20, 28, 29 years old. And I think at that point, my life was not worth a damn thing because I didn't get this woman. And that started making me realize, oh shit, the psychology that I was working with when it came to women was flawed. I'm not saying that women aren't people to be admired and to be cherished and things like that. Most certainly I'm not saying that because they are. There are very nice women. If you had a mom, I've had a mom. I love my mom. I will love and cherish her. She deserves it. I've had like, cousins and my daughter. Like there are people, they deserve it. But to the degree that I had put women on as it related to me, especially in this context, was crazy. Crazy. And so when you get in that psychology where you're like, women are the end all be all, and if I don't have a woman, then I'm nothing, then of course you're going to be angry and upset because the one measuring stick that means anything doesn't, give you, dude, I got to turn this off. It doesn't give you what you want, then you just feel like shit out of luck. And now and that's if the manosphere had been around then, they would have got me at that moment before I made that realization. If I had YouTube and there was a manosphere and people were talking like that, I would have been captured by that. Because I was in a bad place. I didn't have a good way to vocalize it the way that a lot of these red pill dudes do. And that was to my benefit. I think if I had been much more, as smart as I like to think I am, sometimes I just lack the capacity to really quantify what I'm feeling when it comes to like feelings and things like that. And these red pill dudes quantified that grievance a lot better than ever I could. And if I had found them, they would have easily gotten me. Because again, I put my worth as something that's predicated on women. So luckily, I didn't have that. And I was able to take a step back and I was alone with my thoughts and my crappy mind state. But when I recognized that I devalued myself so much that I thought not having this woman, you know, just meant my whole life was shit. That woke me the fuck up because then I was like, whoa. Then the Derek Nelson in me, my ego, I won't even say ego, just the part of me who's like, hold up, Playboy. I haven't been with this organization for 28, 29 plus years just to see you like shit on everything we've done. Like we've had some great times. We got a lot more to offer. Like WTF. And it was a good wake up call. It was something that I needed to know because once I made that decision, I was like, okay, I can't be depressed or mopey anymore, especially not about a woman. And I think after that, that's when I really started like dating and going out with women and trying to get women and all the stuff that I was engaging in before that happened. I calmed that shit the fuck down. I remember I took like a year and a half off, didn't really talk to girls. And then even when I was like feeling better and I wanted to like go back and date girls, I slowed it the fuck up. I would go out, to bars, talk to girls, not even try to get their number if I was interested. Cause I'll be like, what really are we gonna do? Like, am I really looking for a relationship? No. So should I waste your time and mine? Because I'm not really into this. I'm just kind of going through the motions. And if I'm just going through the motions, then why are we even here? And I think that time really helped me take a step back and really assess like what women meant to me. And if I'm being honest, at that point, well, before that point, they were just another way to just measure manhood. And while I was successful at it to a degree, I wasn't successful, if that makes sense. Like I look back now at some of the relationships I took part in, and I honestly think I had opportunities to really get to know women and to really get in relationships with different women. And instead, I was just like, no, I would just rather be with other women for a short amount of time. And that's it. And that was like the mentality. And all my friends promoted it and I promoted it. And we were like, yeah, we're young. We can do what we want, blah, blah, blah. And it did a real disservice because I think I missed out on some really good opportunities. Like, the stuff people remember, you'll have a fling or two here and there, but the stuff really people really remember are those like really satisfying relationships you have with people, whether male or female, however they are, friendship or whatever. But when you really connect with somebody, that's the shit you remember, not the frivolous stuff, the one night stands, the being out, like all that shit kind of fades to dust. I don't even remember half the things people I was out with and met at bars and shit like that. It just doesn't matter because nothing came of it. It was just empty calories. And so, me turning that corner and realizing that my whole approach to women was kind of just like empty, was the first turning point. And then what happened as a byproduct is because I wasn't pursuing women in the way that I was, as kind of being like, okay, I'm trying to get women. I sat down and talked to them and had conversations with them and really was like, okay, I'm not really trying to holler. I'll talk, I'll engage. And because I didn't have no any stake in the game per se, I was able to, in a lot of words, glean a lot of information from women, and I got to see how dating was for them or how guys treat them and how like, you know, they'll meet a guy and he'll ghost, and I'm not saying women don't do it too. It's on both sides, but as a guy, you really don't have an understanding of how we come off towards women. And even women would tell me, like, you know, at some points I'm kind of like an asshole and things like that. And I was like, really? This is news to me. But of course it'd be news to me because in my world, I thought I was that guy. And no, I had much, much to learn. And so I was fortunate, like I said, that I had to suffer alone. But I am thankful every day that I had at least a shred of wisdom to learn from my suffering. And I think this is where a lot of men are running into problem is they're suffering alone. But instead of using that turmoil and examining what's going wrong, because you do have a little bit of culpability in why these women aren't attracted to you. It's not just because you're shitty. I mean, okay, some women, you may not be attracted to some women. It happens. Some of us are not the most attractive, whatever. But I think for a majority of these guys, somebody will find you attractive. So the question is, what are you doing wrong that's preventing them from finding you attractive? Because women have a much different barrier to entry about guys that they want than women. I would hate to be a woman just being a man, and I know how men select women. That sucks. But the way women select men allows for so much more. So much more. Men's selection is like right here. Women, they'll give you this giant berth. Like it's crazy. And so I think you do have to own some of that culpability of why you are alone, why people are not liking you, why you have no friends. Like some of that has to do with you because this socialization thing is a two-way street. So instead of listening to this guy over here who does not have your experience, who's talking about all this dumb shit, who's riding a helicopter on a yacht with some women in bikinis and telling you you need to be alpha male and you need to make money and invest in stocks and all this other dumb shit, you should just be like, hold up. Cultivate yourself. What am I really about? Because once you know what you're about, these women will know what you're about. Not about this fake shit, about the real shit you're about. Then you can go and say, okay, I'm about this. Now, what am I doing wrong when I'm approaching these women? And talk to some women and get to know them and stop learning about women through angry, bitter ass men. They're not helping you. You're not helping you. You can't go to haters and expect them to fix your problems. I'm sorry. I would never go to, if I heard somebody, if I had problems with women and I went to a rail pill dude, I'd be like, we're done. Because you obviously don't know what the fuck's going on. That's why you're over here peddling this stuff. Like, you're not making the situation better. And if you want to, at the very least, if your ultimate goal is to have a family and children and to actually have somebody to love, then stop fucking being unlovable and listening to people who can't love anymore. They're broken. They are. They're just broken. So that would be the first thing. And then again, take women off the pedestal. It's not helping you. If it's causing this much, this much pressure, take it off the shelf. Come back to it later. It's just not worth it. It's just not. But yeah, I think that's 30 minutes, man. I need to stop talking. But yeah, that's what I have to say about my advice, part 2 with women. There's a third one coming up, which I'll put out Friday, hopefully a little bit early. I got busy today, man. But yeah, that's the common sense I will offer to young men. It's soul searching, man. Being better, which I think is really what this country should be, and not trying to be the best, and not trying to be the greatest, and not trying to harken back to some like a mythological ideal time people think. We should strive to be better. And part of that is reflecting on yourself and understanding your complicity in the situation you're currently in. because in most regards, you have done something to put yourself in this situation. Now, the degree to which you're at fault may vary, okay, but you are at least responsible for your involvement to some degree. And in the case of you not being able to get women, I would think deeply on why that is. Seriously. And don't blow smoke up your ass or any of that. Just think about, why am I off-putting to women? Why don't people want to talk to me? Because I guarantee, if women were red pill like dudes, dudes would hate that shit. Women were just like, yeah, man, I got all my dudes, and they better make, like, no, none of the dudes like it when women are like, I want a 6 foot man. He needs to have 6 figures. He needs to have this car and this house. They hate that. But yet, on the flip side, they like, well, she's got to be under 25 and she can't have no kids, and she needs to work out, and she needs to have this waist and this hips and this bust, and she needs to have her own hair. Like, it's the same shit. So if you don't like that shit from somebody else, don't engage in that shit. Simple as that. So that's my common sense advice about women. And next video, we'll talk about something else for young men. I'm trying to think what would be the most effective target, but we'll get there. You'll see it on Friday. So with that, you guys take care, and see you on the next one.